Hi! I always read the comments you leave, and I know that you like to eat while watching videos on the Private Diary channel. So, enjoy your meal! I'm Christina, by the way. My parents were very strict. My sister Julia and I had to go to church with them every week, and eventually Mom and Dad sent us to a church school. Wearing makeup and revealing clothes and talking to boys was strictly forbidden. My parents founded a charity. They often held various events and helped those in need. Julia liked a life like that, but secretly, I dreamed of dating boys and throwing parties. One day, my sister, the volunteers from our parents' organization, and I had to deliver the money we'd raised to an orphanage. It had a terrible reputation. Only the most troubled teens ended up there. The orphanage was 10 miles from our town. When we arrived, I saw a group of kids on the porch. Why would they dress like that? Unlike Julia, I liked their style. There was one guy among them that I just couldn't take my eyes off. He was gorgeous. Our eyes suddenly met, and he winked at me. Oh, I immediately turned red as a lobster and I looked down. We were about to leave after handing over the money to the head of the orphanage when a violent thunderstorm began. The rain washed away the road, and the wind bent the trees to the ground. Driving in such weather is dangerous. Stay here for the night. All the volunteers were given rooms. I got to stay with Julia. She passed out as soon as her head hit the pillow, but I kept tossing and turning. The loud thunderclaps made me shiver. Then, I heard footsteps and muffled laughter outside our door. I got curious and I looked out into the hallway. The same kids that we'd seen on the porch were there. To my surprise, they waved me over. My knee-jerk reaction was to step back. Are you scared? Don't worry, we don't bite. I hesitated, but decided to join them. Soon, we found ourselves in front of a closet door. I was beginning to regret coming along, but when they opened the door, wow, this is our secret hideout. I'm Amanda, by the way, and this is Alex. We sat down right on the floor. They offered me popcorn and told me about their life in the orphanage. Everyone in my family are volunteers. That's not something you should be proud of. All volunteers are con men. That's not true. We help everyone in need. Yeah, right. At first, we were just chatting, but then Amanda suggested we play Spin the Bottle. Of course, I'd heard of the game before, but I'd never actually played it. When it was my turn, I spun the bottle and you've got to kiss Alex. Come on. I felt myself blush. My heart was pounding like crazy. No, it was too much for me. Excuse me, I need to go. I ran out of the closet and I heard them burst out laughing. We came back home in the morning. For several days, I couldn't get that night at the orphanage out of my mind. I kept thinking about Alex's face. It was time to stop sewing. If I wanted something to change, I would have to act. Mom, Dad, and Julia went to church the next day, but I had other plans. I think I'm sick. Maybe I should stay at home today. Of course, sweetie. Go get some rest. As soon as they left, I took my savings, called a taxi, and headed to the orphanage. I wanted to see Alex and Amanda, but they were nowhere to be found. I spent almost an hour there, but eventually I had to go back. I was trudging along the road when I heard loud music and the screeching of tires. The next second, a car stopped next to me. When I saw it, my jaw dropped. There was a swimming pool where the rear seats and trunk were supposed to be. Some huge guy was behind the wheel. And as for the pool… Christina, get in. I looked at the driver warily. He didn't seem like someone I wanted to drive me anywhere. That's Big Sam. He's our friend, and we often hang out at his tattoo parlor. He only looks scary. He's actually a huge softie. Amanda's words didn't reassure me much, but while I was hesitating, she grabbed my arm and dragged me into the car. Oh, get in the pool. I wanted to refuse, but then someone pushed me in the back. I fell into the water with my clothes on. I panicked at first, but it was surprisingly pleasant. The music was blasting from the speakers. Everyone was shouting and letting loose. I'd never done something like that before. For the first time ever, I felt free. At some point, we drove past the church, and I saw my parents and Julia coming out of it. Oh no. I quickly dived so they wouldn't notice me. As soon as we turned the corner, I asked Big Sam to stop the car. I need to go home now. See you later. I came home and I quickly put on a long bathrobe and wrapped my hair in a towel. When my parents and Julia walked in, I pretended I'd just gotten out of the shower. Are you feeling better? I was a bit cold, so I took a shower. You're not gonna believe what we saw. Some psychos were driving around in this weird car.
Those were the kids from the orphanage. They've lost all shame.
I hope they'll come to their senses. Then, Mom and Dad suddenly handed us small boxes.
We have something for you girls.
When I opened the box, my eyes bugged out. There was a new phone in it. Our parents had never bought us anything so expensive before. The next day, Julia and I went to school as usual, but I didn't let go of my new phone for even a second, terrified I would drop and break it. But even that expensive gift wasn't enough to keep me from thinking about my new friends. I kept getting distracted in class, and then I saw Alex outside the window. He was hiding behind a tree and waving at me. I lied to Julia and I said that I wasn't feeling well again. I'm gonna skip the last class. Can you cover for me? Okay. Alex and Big Sam drove me out of town. We stopped at a cliff with a fantastic view. The rest of the gang was already waiting for us there, ready for the show. Alex suddenly pulled off his t-shirt and jumped off the cliff. Holy heck! I ran up to the edge and looked down. There was a river below, but Alex was nowhere to be seen. Don't worry, he does that all the time.
This is freedom, baby.
After the cliff, they were gonna go to a club. Christina, you should join us. As usual, I hesitated, but Amanda managed to convince me. She gave me her clothes before we went there. Don't take it the wrong way, but they won't even let you in there if you go like this. After I changed, Amanda did my makeup. Walking in heels was weird, but I didn't care. I felt so much more confident thanks to my new looks. When I walked into the club, it was like I'd stepped into another world. I was having fun and dancing with everyone. At some point, I decided to get some fresh air. Imagine my shock when I stepped outside and saw my parents. Oh no, they'd noticed me. I panicked and I went to the bathroom to change. This was awesome, but I need to go home.
I'll give you a ride.
We got into Big Sam's car. I was worried the entire way home that my parents had recognized me.
You don't have to obey your parents. This is your life.
It's easy for you to say.
Listen, your parents take all the money people donate to their organization for themselves. They don't give anything to charities. It's a scam.
That's not true.
You just don't want to believe it. The head of our organization is in on it. He got half the money you brought us, and your parents got the other. Meanwhile, we didn't get anything.
I couldn't believe it. But then I remembered the new phones that Julia and I had got from our parents. Where did they get that kind of money? Soon, we stopped by my house. I was about to get out of the car when Alex touched my arm. I turned around and he looked me straight in the eye.
You're different. You're not like them. Don't let your parents decide how you should live your life.
Alex's words made me uneasy. I got goosebumps, quickly said goodbye, and went inside. Where have you been? I wasn't feeling well, so I came home, and then I went for a walk.
You shouldn't go out alone. It's too dangerous.
We saw a girl your age outside a club. She was dressed so vulgar. What were her parents thinking? I turned away and hid a smile. They hadn't recognized me. Phew. The next day, Mom and Dad organized another charity event. All the money raised was supposed to go to the homeless. Julia and I were supposed to perform that evening. It was almost our turn to sing when I ran into Alex backstage. What are you doing here?
Saving you.
We have a plan. Come with us. Alex and Amanda convinced me to go with them. I snuck out, and Julia had to perform alone. Soon, we arrived at Big Sam's tattoo parlor.
I want to get another tattoo.
Big Sam got to work, and I watched him, fascinated. It was so exciting. I suddenly got a crazy idea. I want a tattoo too. The whole gang cheered. I decided to get a tattoo on my hip so my parents wouldn't see it. It hurt like hell, but I loved the adrenaline rush. I couldn't believe I'd done it. When I got home, no one was there yet. That was weird. The charity event had to have been over by then. My parents and Julia only came home hours later. They looked miserable.
Christina, why did you leave?
I'm sorry, I wasn't feeling well again. Should I call a doctor? No, I'm better now. To my surprise, Mom and Dad said someone had stolen all the donations from their charity event.
How dare those vile thieves do this?
The story seemed suspicious to me. Alex's words about my parents immediately came to mind. Julia and I went to our room. She gave me a weird look before getting into bed. Were you really not feeling well? Sure I was, or I wouldn't have left you. Lying was becoming a bad habit of mine. The next day, I snuck out to see Alex again. He introduced me to a boy called Luke.
He's from an orphanage in the neighboring town. Its head was a real bastard and turned Luke's life into a living hell, so now Luke had to run away. He has nowhere to live now. Christina, can he stay at your place?
What? What are you talking about? I could live in the attic. Their request stumped me.
Please, we really need your help. Besides, Luke could keep an eye on your parents. It's time to catch them red-handed.
This time, I hesitated a lot longer than usual. Alex took my hand and pulled me aside. Then he gently caressed my face.
I like you so much, Christina.
Alex leaned in and kissed me. I hesitantly put my arms around his neck. Thousands of butterflies fluttered in my stomach. I finally felt cool and grown up. In the end, I let Luke stay in our attic for a while. He seemed like a nice guy, and I didn't want to disappoint Alex. That evening, my family was having dinner when we heard a strange noise upstairs. Did you hear that? It was probably a mouse. I saw one in our room today. A mouse?
We should buy some rodent repellent.
The next morning, I brought Luke breakfast.
Are you going to eat all of this?
I've had a huge appetite lately. I must have recovered. Soon, Mom and Dad gave us presents again. Now it was cool wireless headphones. But instead of joy, I only felt disappointment. It seemed like Alex was right after all. The next few days flew by. One evening, I tripped as I was getting out of the shower. Unfortunately, Julia had been walking by at that moment. My leg ended up exposed, and is that a tattoo? There was no point in denying it, so I immediately resorted to pleading. Please don't rat me out. Oh, sis, what's going on with you? Okay, I won't tell them anything.
Thank you. You're the best.
One night, I went up to the attic late at night to give Luke dinner, but he wasn't there. Then I heard a noise outside, and Luke climbed in through the window. He was wearing a ski mask. What's going on? Why are you wearing that?
Ever since I ran away from the orphanage, the police have been looking for me. I sneak out to meet Alex, and I put on the mask so no one will recognize me.
The mask makes you look suspicious, though.
The people in the city are used to seeing weird teens.
All of a sudden, we heard someone coming up the stairs. Before Luke could hide, Julia came up to the attic. What's going on?
The next moment, she saw Luke and froze. Julia was clearly about to call our parents, but I stopped her.
I had to tell her about everything I'd been up to and that our parents were con men.
You can't tell them anything.
I agreed to keep quiet about your tattoo, but this is too much.
Please, Julia.
Julia didn't believe our parents were taking the donations, but in the end, I got her to promise to keep my secrets. A couple days after that, our parents said they were going to hold another charity event.
It'll be bigger than anything we've done before. A lot of rich guests are going to be there.
We hope they will donate generously. My parents probably wanted to take all the money for themselves again. I didn't want that, and I told Alex and Amanda about the event the same day.
We'll stop them, no matter what.
You did great, Christina. I'm proud of you. Here, take this.
It's time to show your parents you aren't like them. Wear this to the charity event.
Yeah, stop living by their rules. You only live once. At first, I hesitated, but then I plucked up the courage and I took the clothes. I would live the way I wanted. Dozens of people came to the charity event. My parents were the center of attention and talking to all the guests. At first, things were going as usual, but then I walked in. My new look sure caused a stir. Everyone was staring at me and my parents were stunned speechless. I've had enough. I won't play by your rules anymore. You're hypocrites.
Christina, what are you talking about?
Of course, my behavior caused a real scandal. The other volunteers tried to calm me down, but I told my parents everything I thought about them. Then I turned around and walked away with my head held high. My veins were flooded with adrenaline. I did it! My friends were supposed to be waiting for me outside, but for some reason they weren't there. All I saw was Big Sam's empty car. Suddenly, a siren wailed. A few seconds later, a police car stopped next to me. Soon, my parents, Julia, and all the guests rushed out of the building, and then the police led someone outside.
Don't touch me.
Get your hands off me! I didn't understand what was going on. Julia must have ratted Luke out to our parents, and they must have framed my friends. But then, Mom and Dad told me something that turned my whole world upside down. A gang of robbers had recently appeared in our town. The cops suspected the kids from the orphanage, but they only had proof against Luke, who'd already been caught several times. He had escaped from a police station, not an orphanage. I did tell Mom and Dad about Luke.
We organized the event to catch the robbers red-handed.
I didn't want to believe them, but then a policeman showed me the CCTV footage. While I was distracting my parents with my scandalous behavior, Alex and the rest of the gang had made their way into the room where the money was being kept. Alex, how could you do that? Alex suddenly laughed.
Holy cow. You were so easy to manipulate. Get in.
But what about all the expensive gifts?
We realized we were being too harsh on you and decided to spoil you a little. We've saved up some money over the years. That's all.
I realized I'd crossed a line with my teenage rebellion. I wanted to sink through the floor. Although my parents were strict, they were good people. I shouldn't have thought so badly of them. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry.
Being able to forgive is very important. We'll always love you.
Soon, Alex and his gang were sent to a special camp for troubled teens, and I convinced my parents to transfer me to a regular school. They didn't agree at first, but I was very persistent. I may have made mistakes, but I've also gained invaluable experience. Now I dress however I like and I even go on dates. But shh, that's a secret. Mom and Dad are still pretty strict, but I'm gonna graduate from high school and go to college soon. A whole new life awaits me there.